Hi, Ben Carpenter here. I'm going to talk to you about something which I like to describe as the spectrum of dedication. So this is a concept that I go over with new clients when I first start training them. So I'm going to discuss it with you as if you were a new client, and hopefully you'll get the gist of why I go over it. So the spectrum of dedication. At one end of the spectrum we have no change to your training, no change to your diet, no change to your lifestyle. At the other end, you have overhauling everything, going on the most crazy training program necessary, the most crazy diet protocol necessary, all of the lifestyle changes necessary to get to where you want to be. So, the reason I go over this is to try and find out if there is a disconnect between the goals that someone wants to achieve and the level of dedication that they wish to commit. So, for example, if someone says, I want to become a professional bodybuilder, I want to compete, I want to be a fitness model, appear in a magazine, let's take a kind of extreme end. So it is important that they realise the amount of dedication and work to get there. So you won't find kind of pro bodybuilders, decent fitness models that are training 2 or 3 times a week. They're all going to have a higher training frequency than that. So if someone comes in and says, I want to look like the guy who's just won WBFF or whatever, and when I ask what level of dedication they can put in, they say, I'm happy to commit to 3 training sessions a week. That's just not going to happen. That's where there's a disconnect between the results they want to achieve and the dedication that they're willing to put in. This is the common scenario. This is the one that people realise, i.e. people wanting the best result but not willing to put in the effort to get there. Now, the one that is slightly less common but should still be recognised is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So people who want modest results but completely overhaul everything to get there. So let's take a common cliche scenario. Someone is January 1st starting New Year's resolution, they want to lose 3 or 4 pounds, just a modest amount of weight. But what they're doing to get there is going from whatever diet plan they had before. Instead of making a couple of small changes because they're only looking for some small results, what they do is stop eating everything. They go on a strict juice plan. They go from not training at all to training 5 or 6 times a week, and they overhaul everything. Now what you've got is they want the modest results, but they've actually made a commitment which puts them right at the other end of the spectrum. Now this is a problem because they have forced themselves to follow a level of dedication and change which they cannot adhere to long term, and they don't need to adhere to it long term. So what they do is they follow something super strict. They don't need to follow something that strict, but they do it anyway. They do it for 2 or 3 weeks, they struggle, they fall off the bandwagon. Where if we had matched their goals with their level of dedication, we could have made very minor changes. They could have got there with as little stress as possible. So that's the concept. That's why it's important, because a lot of people are either wanting the best result but not willing to put in the effort necessary to get there, or people want quite modest results but they're following programs from Flex magazine, from a Phil Heath program or something like that. A note on that, and this is quite an important note on that, there are a lot of people that say things like, if you're not going to be a competitive bodybuilder, you shouldn't worry too much about macros, you shouldn't worry about being too strict with your diet, you shouldn't worry about having to eat 6 meals a day or training 6 times a week or whatever. And I kind of understand the concept, because in a way they're saying, if you're not looking for the absolute pinnacle of results, why are you trying to follow the absolute pinnacle of training and diet plans in terms of level of obsession? But in a way I'm reluctant with that, because I think it's kind of rude to tell someone what they should and shouldn't do. So just because someone might not want to compete in the future doesn't mean that they don't want the absolute best results that they can right now. So for example, if you take someone skinny, who's to say that they can't be absolutely meticulous with their training program? So just because they're not several years into their training program, they're not looking at competing yet, doesn't mean they don't want to be right at this end of the spectrum to start with. That's my own philosophy. Basically, let people pick whereabouts on the spectrum they want to be, and make sure that their goals and the level of dedication necessary to get there match. So, for example, if someone only wants to lose a couple of pounds and you completely overhaul their diet program, it's going to come with a lot of unnecessary stress when you could have just made a couple of tweaks to get there. Whereas on the other hand, if someone wants the absolute best results and all you've done is a couple of small tweaks, they won't get there. So make sure that the goals they want to achieve and their level of dedication, which they have to put in, match, and they understand that. That way, people have the right expectation to suit their goal, and it doesn't mismanage their own level of motivation, i.e. people being too strict for what's necessary, or not being strict enough and then being demotivated. So that's it. I hope it's been interesting. If you've got any questions about this, please feel free to ask them on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Ben Carpenter Personal Training, or my Twitter and Instagram pages are both BDC Carpenter. And thank you for watching. Bye.